Well, following Joyce is a scary thing. In some ways, I didn't feel going to Oak Hall was me going out on mission. But looking back and having been asked to do this, scares the life out of me. So please excuse me if it comes over a little muddled. But it has brought back lots of happy memories. And so, yeah, for those of you that haven't heard of Oak Hall is a holiday company which started as trips, holidays, excursions for a church youth group. It was a Brethren church in Kent, in a place called Caterham, and it sort of grew and it grew and it grew out of this youth group, and eventually became this company, and they call it Oak Hall Expeditions at that time. It wasn't a holiday, they wouldn't advertise them as holidays because it was all done on a shoestring and things used to go wrong quite frequently. So therefore, if you called it an expedition, it excused everything. But the aim of Oak Hall is to provide low-cost holidays for Christians, to encourage them in their walk with God, with Bible teaching, and also providing an environment where you could bring your non-Christian friends, which was a non-threatening place. And also it showed that Christians were just normal. We had fun, we did crazy things, but everything was founded on prayer. So back in Otford, in Kent, the home team would be praying every day for the trips that were out and problems that were happening and whatever. So my sister and I, aged 18 and 19, went on our first holiday away abroad. The cheapest way for us to go on holiday was an Oak Hall trip to France, and we went to the Ardèche Gorge canoeing. And that introduced us to the Oak Hall experience. We were camping, we were having fun, and met lots of people. But also we had a Christian team there that, that were providing that spiritual input, which over the years I've really been very grateful for, that in times when I've been low in my life and we've gone away on holiday, and I've just been so encouraged by the preaching and the prayer times, and meeting people with similar outlooks. So as some of you know, I struggle with depression and on and off, and in my mid-20s, early, I'd gone through a bad patch, and I'd changed my hours, and I'd got a new manager and at work, and I changed my hours, and everything was ticking along nicely, and life was good. I was living at home, and I went away with an older lady from Belmont to Switzerland on a ski trip. And we were sat in a prayer meeting one morning, and I don't know, can't remember what we'd been looking at, or but what I do remember is that the lady that I'd been away on holiday with prayed that that people on this trip would be challenged about their walk and what they were doing for God, and people would step out in faith. And later on, I was watching one of the leaders of the trip going up the stairs with a pair of blue marigolds on. And I thought to myself, I'd quite like to do that. Well, one of the things is just be careful what you think you might like to do. So I go home and there's this nagging feeling. It's like, I'd like to do that, but things in my life just won't work. It just wouldn't be possible for me to do anything like that. And I probably had about a list of about 10 things that said, you can't do that. So I sort of shelved it, and this thought just wouldn't go away. So in the end, I turned around to my mum and go, what would you say if I said I wanted to go and work for Oak Hall for a year? And she'd go, yep, fine, go for it. It's like, uh-oh. That wasn't the response I was expecting. So I sort of go, oh, right, then what do I do next? So I wrote a letter to Oak Hall thinking, well, they won't want me. I'm this quiet person. I didn't stand out from the crowd. I liked being behind the scenes. Wouldn't say boo to a goose. And in the meantime, I go to my boss at work. What would you say if I said I wanted to take a career break? And he goes, Julie, that would be really good for you. Wouldn't be good for us as a company, but it'd be really good for you. It's like, uh-oh. So it's so happened that the same day, my area boss was on the phone to talk to my manager, and I answered the phone and I go, what would you say if I said I wanted a career break? And he swore down the phone. I'll go, okay. And he says, I'll get back to you about that one. So he talks to my manager. And anyway, so several days, weeks, I can't remember, later, I get a phone call from him. He says, I'm going to send you a lady, and she's going to come and talk to you about why you want to do a career break now, why it can't be postponed, put off to another time. And I've got to explain that in pharmacy, over the years, we've been really short of pharmacists, so it's never a good time to take a career break. And at that particular time, it wasn't a good time to be taking, they were really short of pharmacists. So this lady comes to see me, and as it turns out, she had a very similar home environment to me. And she really got why I wanted to take a career break at this particular time. My dad was really well, yeah, just a number of reasons why I felt now was a good time to take a career break. And what she didn't know was that my area boss had said, whatever she decides, I'm going to go with it. So if she thinks it's a good idea for you to have a career break, we'll go with it. So at the end of the conversation, she said, well, if it was up to me, I'd let you have the career break. So guess what? I got my career break. And every single obstacle that I put in place to go, this isn't going to work, I can't do this, God took away. And I must admit, it was one of the most exciting times in my life, just seeing how God worked in taking away every obstacle and problem that I put in the way, saying, I can't do what you want me to do, but I am willing to press those doors a little bit to see what God can do. So I go off to Oak Hall, and Andrew, if you want to show the first picture, which is the house. And this is where I ended up. This is Otford Manor, which is a manor house in the Kent countryside, looking over the Weald of Kent. And it's the conference centre stroke head office of Oak Hall. And I went there originally for a year to work on their house team. So if you want to show the next picture, and that's the team that I had when I first arrived there. And we were all a little crazy, and we all had a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. And I must admit, was the hardest I've ever worked in my life physically. I was absolutely shattered. We were the first ones up in the morning, and we were the last ones to go to bed at night, particularly if we had a conference in over the weekend. So we used to have groups. So we do have churches come away for weekends away. We would have OM come, and they would do their 2-week induction for their people going out on mission. So we would have people coming for reunions for their holidays and all sorts. And it was a time of real encouragement, because every day we started our day with prayer. There was a prayer meeting and a Bible study. And it was a time where you could see so many answers to prayer. Everything would come down to that prayer meeting in the morning, and we would pray about it, and we would see answers from buses breaking down or catching fire or whatever. We saw God work day in, day out. So as part of being on the home team, you'd also go out on trip a little bit. So my first trip that I ever went out on as team member, I went out to Spain, and the next picture is what we ended up cooking for about 70 people in a tent with 2 burners and no fridge. But it is great fun, and you get to meet such wonderful people. And one of my overriding memories is being given the right words. There was an occasion where a young lady was in absolute floods of tears with her friends, and it was like, can we pray with you? And it was like, yes, can you just pray for our friend? And we didn't really know anything about her, but God gave us the words to say, and gave me the words, and I prayed, and the words were just the right thing that she needed to hear at that moment. And it like blows you away when that happens. And if you want to show the next picture, Andrew, which is the last picture, this is the coach that they have one coach now, but at our time there was 2, and a lot of time is spent walking up and down the coach, talking to people. And a lot of people used to go, the coach trip, hate the coach trip. But for me, it was a time where you got to meet people, talk to people. And as a person that didn't struggle to make conversation, because you were serving someone, it gave you that opportunity to start to talk to people. So I always loved going out on the coach, and it being a way of talking and meeting people. So I did write stuff down, and yeah, I feel like I'm just yeah, I think for me, there are so many stories that I could tell you about what happened and how blessed we were. But overall, I think I'm losing my words, but it was such a time of growth. I think if my encouragement is if you let God put, just listen to God and take away, put into action what he says, and if he encourages you to do something, it changes your life. It changed me from a person that was so quiet, didn't have an opinion, to a person that's much more outgoing, that he showed me strengths that I didn't know I had. And Andrew asked us to think about songs that would take you back to time out on trip. And the one that sticks in my mind is In Christ Alone. And that in that song, it says that Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand. And it was out on a ski trip that it really struck me that I was in God's hands, and the devil couldn't take me from his hands. That however low I ever feel, however unsure of my faith, however knocked we are, that God still holds us tightly. And yeah, I think that is, of all the songs, that is, and maybe of my whole experience, is that yeah, that God has you in his hands. He has a plan. And when he has a plan and you listen to that plan, it is so exciting. It is a time of such growth. And I would just encourage anybody that ever felt God was leading them out to do something for him, that it may be scary, but just do it, because the benefits just outweigh the scariness.